Hey everyone. So in this video we are going to discuss some of the extraembryonic membranes that are formed during the pre-embryonic stage. So with that said, these are some of the membranes and structures that are formed to assist the embryo in growing. First one to talk about is the chorion. This is formed by, once again, the trophoblast. As we said, the trophoblast is going to be primarily used to create these structures. And specifically, this is going to be the outermost extraembryonic membrane. Projections will grow from the trophoblast and invade the endometrium as we discussed. And these will be the chorionic villi that are going to help stabilize and keep the structure in place. Next, we can talk about the lacunae. The lacunae are irregular spaces within the endometrium and around the chorionic villi formed by the action of those proteolytic enzymes that we discussed earlier. So these enzymes are going to break down part of the endometrium, and because of that, you're going to get little spaces in between the villi and the endometrium. So this will fill with maternal blood. The embryonic blood vessels are going to be able to transport blood to and from the embryo by connecting the embryo to the placenta. And then lastly, we're going to see an embryonic capillary network from these chorionic villi. So these villi are going to connect from the mother to the child so that the child can get the blood supply, specifically the nutrients, from the mother's blood. So this is very important to make sure that the child gets the efficient nutrients. The next structure is the amnion, and this is going to be the second extraembryonic membrane, and it's going to develop around the embryo during the second week. One of the components is the amniotic fluid, and this fluid is going to fill the space between the embryonic discs and the amnion. And this is going to protect and cushion the embryo, as well as maintain a constant temperature throughout the pregnancy. So again, these membranes and these tissues that are being formed are extremely important accessory components to make sure that the embryo is able to fully develop. So because the amniotic cavity is going to get so large, the amnion is going to contact the surrounding chorion, and therefore, when they fuse, the amniochorionic membrane will form. Next, we have the yolk sac. So the embryonic membrane that forms during the second week on the underside of the embryonic discs is going to form blood cells during the development because of the yolk sac. Next, the allantois is going to be a structure that's formed during the third week between the yolk sac and the connecting stalk, and it's going to be important for forming blood cells and the umbilical cord blood vessels that the baby's going to need. Next, we have the placenta. This is going to form from disc-shaped area where the chorion contacts the uterine wall. Kind of mentioned that previously, but this is going to be important because it's going to contain the embryonic and maternal portions, and it's going to connect the two together. Lastly, we have the placental membrane, and this is going to separate the embryonic blood from the maternal blood. So nutrients and respiratory gases can be exchanged. However, they're going to be a layer between the two. So the child's able to get the gases and the nutrients as well as remove its waste products through their bloodstream to the mother's bloodstream. However, this placental membrane is going to separate the two to make sure that the mother and child's blood do not necessarily mix. The next few slides are some of the images of what we just discussed. So here are the early stages, and you can see how the amnion is forming as well as its cavity. You can see the connecting stalk, how it connects directly to the endometrium. You can see these chorionic villi and how they protrude into the mother. You see the yolk sac, and you can see the chorion. Something we didn't talk in detail about yet, but you can also see the primary germ layers of what are going to start to create the different tissues and organs of the developing baby. Here's a little bit later stage. And you can see how all these tissues continue to grow. In this image, you can see the placenta and how it separates between the umbilical cord of the developing fetus and the mother's myometrium. And lastly, here we can see the endothelium of what's going inside the embryonic capillaries. If you have any questions at this time, please let me know and we can talk about it. Other than that, we're going to move into the embryonic stage.